Give me 47 minutes and you'll never shrink who you are again. Desire shrinks you. Love expands you. Watch this live and you'll never shrink who you are again. Because tonight, you finally learn how to live a life you actually love. See, you've been taught that the way to freedom is to chase that one thing you want most. Oh, yes, tonight we're talking about ambition. You've been taught to chase the money, the relationship, the status. But what if every time you reach for that one thing, your world becomes smaller? Your breathing grows tighter. Stress strangles your neck like the world is closing in. And slowly, without noticing, you shrink who you are. On tonight, our goal is expansion. Our goal is to talk about that which takes us beyond all desire so that we can live the life we actually want. I'm talking about taking you beyond desire so that you can live the life you actually love. So let's get to it. If you're ready to live free beyond fear, welcome here. I'm Dr. Shawn, and I believe you do not need years to heal. You just need one real breakthrough. That's why I invented Transcendent Psychology and I test it in the real world on real people on my game show, Countdown to Breakthrough, the only game show that heals your soul. We're talking about the limits of ambition. We're talking about moving beyond desire. Straight up, we're talking about how to live the life you actually love, not just the one you think you want. There's a difference. Ooh, there's a difference. As always, let's open up the show with a clip from Countdown. This clip, I meet a young man on the street who's dealing with this ambition issue. Let me jump right into this. That's going to tee up our lesson. Let's go ahead and get to moving.
Trying to pursue a better life. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, oh, you're saying sometimes
Like
your own
chasing
ambition.
money.
Yeah, okay, your own ambition can sometimes get in the way.
For sure.
Okay, well, so when did you notice? When did you notice that the ambition was actually getting in the way? Because typically we tend to say you're ambitious. Wonderful. We tend to want people to be ambitious. We're kind of trained and raised to be that way.
Mm.
But you started noticing that wait, this money chasing thing is getting in the way somewhere. Where did that happen?
Like a lot of people ain't on that, so I might push a lot of people away with that. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, by saying, hey, look, you can do better than the $60,000 a year
sure.
at a job that they're trying to pay you at.
But they cool with it. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, no, they understand. I understand. You understand.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, it really is about you're trying to force people to evolve before they're ready.
For sure.
Okay, and you're saying that. When did you notice that become an issue?
When I started pushing people away.
Who was the person that you were like? Who was just like, man, I can't even fuck with James no more.
Now, I wasn't even on that. It's just like friends and stuff. Like that's all I talk about, like money and how to get money and da 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 da.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I'm in the park. What's today? Saturday. But I be in the park every day. But they be at work. So I be like, you can live like this too. And I feel like that pushed them away, like that scared them type. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So what, they don't call as much anymore?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we just saw was James talking about what happens when he chases the money. What happens when he's paper chasing? When his very ambition has created a life for him that is pushing away the people that he loves, the people that he was close to. It's like in a way, James is trading his relationships at the current moment for this new life. And sometimes that comes with the territory. But the problem is when we do not recognize that in the very pursuit of the cash, of it could be a relationship, it could be just of status, just being seen differently. In the very pursuit of our desire, of our one thing, we trade in the very things that make life actually worth it. Now, here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that as you elevate in life, your friendships and your relationships aren't going to change. They definitely are. But are you putting enough time, enough attention into all of the facets of your life, or are you just focused on that one thing, that one goal, that one situation? Before I jump into this, the deal is that if you have to trade a life that you love just to get something you think you want, to me, that's not good enough. I want it all. But I know of only one thing that can give me the all in all, that can give me everything at once. Oh, I got something for you tonight. But before I keep going, let me shout out the folks in the room. Twin, I see you. Welcome in. He's saying evening all. Twin, his twin. Good evening. Good evening. It's the other twin. Always like to say, twin, a great, great, great. Felicity, welcome in. Excellent, excellent. Valente, welcome in. Okay. Sublime is up in this baby. Welcome in. Okay, folks. So here's what it is. I need to tell you about one of my biggest failures because I want to make sure that we're very clear on what tonight's topic is actually about. I can think of no better way than to articulate it this way. I got to tell you about one of my life's biggest failures. My biggest failure. One of them, anyway. So check it out. Because when I saw James on the street, the reason I was like, oh man, yeah, we all been there before is because of this story I need to share with you right now. Where it's like you're trading value and valuable things for a narrow vision of the future, for something you think you want. Dude. So let me talk to you like this. After I retired in 2020, I started a project to help women in the culture with type 2 diabetes. I wanted to help them reverse the disease, just to heal it completely, right? And so I had like this whole mission being built out. I ended up and messed around and I got New York Times best-selling physician Dr. Joel Furman to agree to do a podcast with me for a year and a half for free. Okay, I had software built. I had a network of doctors, dietitians, personal trainers. Dude, 300 new group members in a private Facebook group a month, 3,500 followers on the Facebook page. I had 5 interns, access to capital, the co-founder of Afrotech feeding me game on the monthly. On paper, I looked unstoppable. What I wanted to do was build a health empire while serving my community, while building generational. What's not to like? What's not to like? And so, deep down, though, I wanted to live a full life that I'd be proud of. I wanted to live a full life that I'd be proud of when I died so that I could know that I meant something. You dig? I wanted to live a life that I actually loved, a life of purpose. That's what I was really after. If you get down to the nit grit of it, I wanted to show the world that I was bigger than they said I was. You dig what I'm saying? More than just a scholar, more than just a sales dude, more than just a, you know what I'm saying? But even as everything was growing, I felt empty. I just felt a whole bunch of pressure to make sure I'm serving and make sure I'm doing everything I need to be doing. I couldn't quit because I had this belief that, quitting was weakness. So I was like, I ain't quitting. I'm about to let's just go ahead and do this. And then whatever I want to do after that, I can do after that. I messed around and met Dwayne The Rock Johnson's chef, right, through some networking. And I was like, okay, well, should I? Yeah, I got the dietitians on board. I got the physicians on board. I got the personal trainers on board. I just need some chefs to kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like help make some of these meals more palatable. You know what I'm saying? Make them taste like how they need to, so that people stick with the plans and whatnot. And she took one look at my software. She took one look at the product, and she was like, "This ain't it." She said, "You did not put your heart into this. This is not great. You're holding a piece of yourself back, and I can see it when I look at this product." That blew me away. She said, "That's because the world is waking up." Her words pierced every illusion that I was carrying. I was like, yo, so you mean that you can see energy in the product itself? Ooh. Which made me question my alignment. What am I doing here? It wasn't but 2 days later, I'm on the phone with a client, and she's telling me about her husband. He, bringing home snacks. And I was like, oh, girl, you know what? He better leave them chips at work. And I caught myself and I was like, what am I doing? Who am I becoming? What are we doing? It's not the fact that it wasn't a noble mission. It was. It was the fact that my heart posture, the way that I was sitting in the situation, was driven by something that was not divine. It was driven by desire, driven by ambition. So it wasn't like I was just building the wrong business. I was becoming the wrong person, the wrong version of me. You feel me? And so I stopped everything on air, right on the YouTube. You know what I'm saying? On YouTube video, I was like, hey, this is going to be our last meeting with Dr. Furman. And he was like, oh, what? All right. He was like, I mean, I'm kind of giving you, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of paths. Like this is the easiest. This is the easiest that's going to get. Sent recommendation letters out to my interns. And I plan to answer one question. What do I actually love? What do I actually love? That one question is the only thing that could take me beyond my own personal ambition. It's not about what I get or even what happens once I begin the journey. Once I'm working on a project, I start asking myself, okay, what is the energy with which I am working on a project? I need to know that, because if I'm working with the right energy, I can deal with whatever consequences or rewards happen to come. But if working with the wrong energy, I'm producing nonsense that people can look at and be like, this ain't it. Not only am I not enjoying my time, I'm actually wasting my time. You dig what I'm saying? And so after I shut everything down, like there came a moment where I was like, okay, here comes that fear. What about all that generational wealth? What about the momentum? What about all the good I was supposed to be doing? You have an ability, why not use it in order to help people? It made intellectual sense. But love kept saying no, be still. Love kept saying no, be still. hmm I was fighting the ambition I had trained myself to have, right? In order to do, PhDs and retire by 30, all that stuff. I mean, look, there's got to be a certain level of, at least I thought there had to be a certain level of ambition. I thought I needed to want it. So I was constantly getting after it in whatever domain I was taking part in, and I was getting after it instead of being who I actually am. I was getting after it instead of being who I actually am. These insights took me years, champ. And as I reflected on everything, everything's falling apart at this point. And as I'm reflecting, a thought came to me and it was like, you know what? Most of my clients with type 2 diabetes didn't have a problem with diabetes. They actually had a problem with directing their own minds. And so my lifelong passion for consciousness, for transformation, for the inner world, okay, that lit up again. I was like, oh, having gone through this journey, I've learned something about myself. That's cool. Love reminded me of my true skill set, the one I had ignored in the name of ambition. Love reminded me of my true skill set, the one I had ignored in the name of ambition. I was just like James, which is why when he said, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I've been chasing money. I've been just kind of blinded by the ambition these other parts of my life kind of they kind of fell more flat. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I know what that's like. For James, that may not mean he may need to find new friends. You know what I'm saying? I have no idea what that means for him. My purpose is to get back in alignment with that source that already knows what to do. Instead of trying to become a slave to my own ambition, I'm telling you, I realized the real question of my life wasn't how do I build a business? It was how do I just do what I love right now? The real question wasn't how do I build a business? The real question was how do I do what I love in this very moment? Answering that question led me away from a business I did not love. And of course, toward the work that would become Transcendent Psychology, Countdown to Breakthrough, and yes, the Breakthrough Live as well. And so I learned one of the most important lessons. I learned that when you stop shrinking yourself to desires and start building your life from love, the real you finally appears. And so if you're understanding what I'm saying, put a yes in the chat because I'm telling you that was one of my biggest failures. Like, how did you drop the ball on that one? You had everything lined up. Everything. Everything except the one thing that matters most. Did not have God alignment, did not have love frequency. When I say love, I'm talking about the end of separation. I'm talking about total oneness. I'm not talking about an emotion. I'm talking about the unitary force behind all existence. I'm talking about love as substance moving through you. Put yourself out of alignment with it. It don't matter what else you got aligned. It don't matter what else, bro. I'm telling you, access to like what? Like what? You have everything. You're in perfect position to make a run for, like you could say, like, yeah, like capital raising, we talk about, the Series A and all. So you can make your little run for being in the networks that provide the sort of capital that you're talking about. As long as you have the traction and you dig what I'm saying, the numbers and all that. And we were pacing for that. Pacing. I thought about that the other day. I was like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it's like, without that mistake, I wouldn't have learned the most important lesson of my life. I wouldn't have understood that following this energetic sequence, this substance, it cannot be put off. You cannot wait and be like, oh, yeah, I'll get the paper first and then I'll do what I love. No, no, no. It compromises your ability to even get to the paper. I was not the one who could bring that organization forth. It doesn't matter that I had all of the skills, the know-how, the connections, that I was the one who was a hustler. It didn't matter. Without having this unitary substance directing my steps, I simply ran out of gas. But see, that's what desire does, doesn't it? And ambition, desire is the same thing. That's what ambition does. That's what desire does. It has you shrinking, has you thinking about one narrow facet of life over and against all others, which means you can't even appreciate the unique gifts, inner and outer, that God has provided to you. When I say God, I'm talking about nature. I'm talking about the fabric of reality, not a guy in the sky. But you can't even appreciate the unique gifts that God has given to you because you too dang focused on that one thing. You feel me? And so that sets up our conversation. King Wolf is in the chat. King Wolf is in the chat. Devontae, okay. Okay, definitely put your name in the chat so we can shout you out. He says, hello, I would like to thank the twins for allowing me to tune into your podcast. Okay, the twins. Shout out to the twins. Okay, welcome in. King Wolf, they call him Devontae. Welcome in. Excellent. Excellent. All right. So let's go ahead and jump to the breakthrough board because we got to break down this concept at this point. At this point, I like teaching from principle. And so when we can understand the principles that govern our reality, then it becomes easy to navigate, becomes easy to move in the way that is unique and right for us at that particular moment in time. So I like teaching from principles. Jovan, Jovan in the building. Jovan, don't think we didn't see you. What's happening? Jovan says, hey, Shawn, excellent. Okay. King Wolf says his name is Devontae. Okay. Welcome in, Devontae. Excellent. Welcome in, Jovan. All right, let's get to it. So, let's give you some game, champ. I'm about to give you some game. Okay? That I'm about to give you some game. So watch this. Bro, dude, this right here took me years to understand. I'm about to go ahead and give you this game real quick because again, our principle for the evening is just this. This is the breakthrough board. Okay. Okay, Twin says drop it. School them. All right, so watch this. Our principle for the evening is this. Love This is what I need you to know. Yeah. Love thinks in whole solutions. This is the part that I need you to know that love thinks in whole solutions. Okay. What's a whole solution? Whole solutions are the kind of solutions that bring answers to everything important in your life at that moment. So, our principle for the evening is that love thinks in whole solutions. We're about to get this. Oh, you're about to get this tonight. Love thinks in whole solutions. That's our principle. Watch this. We work from principle to pattern to path forward. I want to know the principle of a thing. I want to know the pattern behind it. And then I want to know the path forward. How do we move beyond? So, our principle is that love thinks in whole solutions. And whole solutions are defined as the kind of answers to your problems that account for everything important to you at that moment in time. Love thinks in whole solutions. Need you to understand that. Here we go. Because now that we're understanding, okay, we have this principle that love thinks in whole solutions. We want to make that solid. Like, what's that even mean? Well, we can understand that principle as we dive deeper into the pattern. We're talking about the pattern of thinking that makes the principle valuable in the first place. In this case, this is the pattern. The principle is that love thinks in whole solutions. Here's the pattern. The pattern is that desire shrinks you. Desire shrinks your thinking. Desire shrinks your perception. You start to get narrow minded because you're just looking at that one thing. You ever notice how when you want something, you want just that one thing? It becomes all consuming to you. It becomes a life of constantly chasing the paper, if that's what you're on. A life of constantly competing for status, a rat race. If that's what you're on, you understand. You get so narrow in your quest for the desire that you can no longer think in whole solutions, which means that desire creates partial solutions. You can put the equal sign here. Desire generates partial solutions. What's that mean? That means that in the money chase, you chase the money, but you give up your peace. You chase the relationship, but you give up your purpose. You chase the security and the safety of a comfortable job, but you give up your freedom. That's a partial solution. Why is that? Because you don't get everything when you're trying to chase desires. You can't get everything. The very act of you chasing the desire causes you to compromise other elements and aspects of your life, other things that make your life valuable. Right? So we're talking about desire. And a valuable life, but the desire it causes you to compromise, to trade one component of your life for some other. Let me know if this is making sense to you. Just put a yes, I understand in the chat. What I'm saying is, how many times have you watched somebody? James is a perfect example. He's chasing the money, got the money, but his relationships are now unattended to, which means he's walking in the park by himself, champ. I know something about that. The thing is that when you go ahead and retire at a young age, guess what? You about to be the only one, depending on who your circle is. If the crew did not elevate in the same way, well, they gotta be at work in the morning. You feel me? So James is out there with a basketball by himself, playing pickup games, but the people who matter most to him, they can't be with him. And even when he does join them, like, I ain't even trying to talk about that. The money chase has transformed James into a different sort of person. That could be a wonderful thing. But if he is not giving his relationships the time, the attention that they require, and that can just mean literally going and finding new people or doing something different. But either way, if his relationships are unattended to, because he's been so busy chasing the paper, that even when he gets the paper, he can't even enjoy it with his people. I need you to put a yes, I understand. How many people do you know get the security of a job? They get the 6-figure gig. I knew a dude making $500,000 a year as a software engineer for Amazon, right? The problem is that he never got to enjoy his salary because he was always on call. There was always a fire to put out. His desire to get the safety and security of a high-paying gig made him trade off the very free time that he was hoping the high-paying gig would afford him. You feel me? Somebody put a yes, I understand in the chat. That's why I'm saying this desire, we start chasing these desires, we start chasing these ambitions. Guess what? We start giving ourselves over to thinking that can only provide partial solutions. It's a partial solution. You can't call it a complete solution if I got to trade something that's important to me in order to get something that's important to me. People say, well, that's called sacrifice. It's like, no, dude, that's called not understanding how reality works. In my case, I was chasing this ambition of building generational wealth and getting, serving the community and doing all of these cool things. And I was putting it together, but I was only thinking in partial solutions. The product wasn't even that great because I could not bring myself to spending as much time as was required in order to build a quality product because I was too busy in my head thinking about how do I just satisfy this feeling of not being enough. See, I was thinking in partial solutions. That's why I had the desire in the first place. I wasn't thinking in whole solutions. I was thinking in partial solutions. I was thinking in the partial solution just means you got to trade something important in order to get something important. That's a partial solution. Because at the end of the day, you're left with an incomplete life. Money great, relationships terrible. Business great, purpose is missing. Relationships great, but life's still meaningless. You feel me? That's what the partial solution gets you. You get part of a solution. You don't get the whole thing. You get a part of a solution. Somebody let me know you understand before we go on to King Will. So Devontae saying, yes, I understand. Absolutely. Great. Devontae saying, absolutely understand. Excellent. Sublime saying, lonely at the top, but does it need to be? Twin is saying, all too familiar with that. Shake my head. Say more, Twin. Say more. Twin saying, yes, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Excellent. So, okay, then here go Twin. There are two twins. There, you know what I'm saying? Two twins. The other one saying, I remember doing twins saying wanting is breaking your reality. Desire was more like not wanting, and it was shrinking every bit. So, right, that wanting is breaking your reality. This ambition, this desire, this constant need to get what you perceive you do not yet have is getting in the way of our very capacity to think in whole solutions. I don't want to be able to have a massive high salary, but no time with my children. I don't want to spend my life trying to serve the community, but never build something that's even worthy of giving them. These are partial solutions. It's straight nonsense. And so, okay, but we all fall into it though, because we're taught that we need to be ambitious in order to be successful, that we need to want things. This is what we're taught. But we're only taught that because we do not recognize that were we to surrender ourselves over to a force that is greater than ourselves, then all necessary actions would be completed on their own. We would simply just do the things that are most important at that particular moment. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and talk about the path forward, because we've talked about the principle. The principle is that love thinks in whole solutions. We talked about the pattern behind this need to be ambitious, this need to constantly want things. The pattern being that desire shrinks you. The pattern being that desire forces your mind to think in partial solutions. The pattern is that desire gives you tunnel vision so that you're just focused on the thing you think you want, even if it means leaving out everything else that's actually important to you. And so what we need to do now is talk about the path forward. What's this look like? Because I'm tired of thinking in partial solution. Don't want a life where desire is constantly shrinking me down to a version of myself that I can't recognize. All because somebody taught me the wrong principles about reality? No, sir. So what's our path forward? The path forward is very simple. These are the pieces. I want to make sure y'all can see these. I almost got to make them a little bigger here, just so you can see those for the one time. These are the pieces of your life. Just a bunch of squiggly lines. Let me go ahead and do it like this. So here's the path forward. The path forward is to stop chasing the pieces and let love make you whole. The path forward is to stop chasing the pieces and let love make you whole. So, what am I saying? I'm saying that when you follow love, when you follow that actual feeling, what you might call highest excitement, when you have that inner click, that inner yes, that wait a minute, what's the thing that I would love to be doing right now? And you just go do that thing. No questions. You just go do that love thing. however big it is, however small it is. What you'll find is that love allows you to engage in an activity until it is time to stop, which means that there is a time for working a 2-hour day. There's a time for working a 16-hour day. But the energy that you're going to use to dictate when that time exactly is for you is not based off of a schedule or a to-do list or a should list. It's going to be based off of this deeper access point. You work your 16-hour day and at the end of it, you feel energized. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I got to experience a day like that. Perhaps that next day is just all with the family. Whatever love is saying, do. That's what you're doing for that day. But what you find is this. What you find is that love leaves nothing out. Everything that is important will still get done. And everything that is not important will wither on the vine. It doesn't even matter. If the relationships are important, love will tell you to pick up the phone, make the call, send the invitation, get the RSVP. It'll feel loving to do it. It'll feel great to do it. And simply put, if love does not say yes, then it's a no. If love does not say yes, then it's a no. Why? Because I know that if I leave the spectrum of love in order to try and engage in the world in the way that the world has conditioned me to, then I'm always trading one thing for another. I may get my health great, but the wealth dissipates. I may get the wealth, but my relationships dissipate. I'm always trading one thing for another. There's a partial solution. I can't live a whole life like that. Whereas when I am abiding in love, at every moment of the day, I have exactly what I want anyway. Because when you think about it, desire comes from a sense of fragmentation. Desire comes from a sense of lack, a sense of you do not yet have. But remember, love is wholeness itself, which means that the very fragmentation that you would need to have in order to desire, in order to chase after the pieces, that fragmentation gets dissolved. It gets fully absorbed. You're no longer thinking of yourself as an individual who needs all of these things. Now you're just someone who is expressing love. You're just doing what you love in this moment, and in the next moment, you're going to do something. You're going to do the exact same loving thing. The difference is that love will change the activity. So yes, in this moment, what I love to do is be right here on the Breakthrough Live with you. Love, once this moment is over, will have me go and do something else. Maybe it's go be in the next room with my daughter. Maybe it's go for a walk. Maybe whatever it is, it makes no difference. The very activity, however mundane or large, carries this scent. It carries this frequency. Like I just enjoy doing it for its own sake. There's no ambition in it, which means there's no selfishness in it, which means there's no corruption in it. The activity is pure, which means I can show up and bring all of myself to whatever task I am doing, which means that I leave nothing out. I'm fully present with the task. Time flies because I'm really enjoying myself. Because I'm not just there trying to get something. I'm not just here trying to get something. Life becomes about expressing this love as opposed to trying to chase something. So the path forward is to stop chasing the pieces and let love make you whole. There's two ways to do this. 2 steps, rather. Because we talk about love, but remember, love is the end of separation. It's not just an emotion, though it is present inside of the emotion. The emotion is critical. First thing you need to do The emotion of love is critical. That feeling of love is critical, but it is not. Do not make the mistake of believing that that's all there is to it. The feeling is merely the confirmation that you are in alignment with this great unitary force, that you are psychoneurologically in alignment with this universal substance. The feeling is critical, but don't miss the universal substance trying to call it just a feeling. No, 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 no. The feeling is your indicator that you are in alignment with this universal force. So the first step is to get into the feeling. You do need to do that. Oh, yes, that is required to get into that feeling. Now, you might be saying, well, that's easier said than done. How I do all that? Well, that's what we do here. Provide the practices that cultivate your capacity for getting into the feeling of love. You understand, for getting you into alignment with source, for bringing you back into God's will. You understand. Loving God, same thing. Why? Because I'm talking about the nature of reality. You could just call it nature. Many cultures just called it nature itself. What I'm saying is you're throwing away your illusions, throwing away your delusions by aligning yourself with something that is unconditionable, unconditional and unconditionable. Love is unconditional in the sense that nobody can force you to love something. You love simply because you love. Usually it is its own reason for being. And love is also unconditionable. No one can train you, manipulate you into loving something. You simply love. Every other emotion can be manipulated. You can manipulate someone into lust. You can manipulate somebody into anger. You can manipulate somebody into confusion. But to get to that feeling of love requires going beyond any other emotion. So that's the first step. We got to get you into the feeling. Or when I say we got to get you, you got to get you into the feeling, surrender into the feeling of love. You understand? So that we can get to number two. Number two is a simple question. And it's the same question I had to ask when things were falling apart. Once you get into the feeling of love, the next question is you need to ask yourself, what would I love to do right now? Whatever that thing is, do that thing. And then in the next moment, ask yourself that question again. And you'll find that in each moment of your life, there is something that you would love to do at that particular moment. You string enough of these love moments together across the course of your life, each one of those moments becomes a day. Each one of those days becomes a week. Each one of those weeks becomes a month. Each one of those months becomes a year. Those years become decades. Those decades become your life. And if you can find a way, and it's closer than you think, to make your life an expression of love itself, you will be expressing God on earth. You will be an expression of God on earth. There is no higher facility. There's nothing above that. I started realizing that the only reason I wanted to reverse diabetes for the community and build this generational wealth, I was trying to make life mean something. I was trying to make me mean something. I was trying to live a life that I love. But the plan that I put forward for doing that was completely based off of partial solutions. Create this system, and then you can maybe tie it into this system and tie it into this one. And the whole time, I'm giving time, money, attention over to something that was completely out of frequency, completely out of love. When I say out of love, I mean outside of love. I'm not saying that it was an expression of love. I'm saying it was outside of it. That environment, it stopped me from thinking in whole solutions. So it's like, yeah, you got everything kind of working and everything's right. It's poised, it's ready to grow, but your life stops working. And it takes all this energy just to try and get yourself up out of bed. You don't even want to think about the work. looking at the clock to try and make sure that the day is almost over. That is operating outside of the frequency of love. How many people you know live just that way? If you're understanding what I'm saying, say, yes, I understand in the chat. Because I do want to make sure if anything is not clear, I want to make sure that we get that handled. Because once we start thinking and understanding that love thinks in whole solutions, and it can think in whole solutions because it is the whole. It is paying attention to the full weight of the cosmos. It understands what we are naturally inclined to do, what our basic contribution is. And we don't have to cogitate about that. We don't have to make that intellectual. We can intellectualize about it later, but it is not in that moment something that is a function of the human intellect. Though it can make use of the intellect in order to express itself, it's beyond the human intellect. So it doesn't even matter if you understand how it works. You just know how it feels when you're doing that one thing that you love in that moment. How it feels like time flies by. You look over at the clock and it's like, oh, dang. We've been here for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. It's been like, you know what that feels like. And so what if every moment is like that? Guess what love does? It doesn't just have you staying at the office. Even if you love being at the office, at one point it's going to tell you to go have a meal. It's going to tell you to pick up this interesting book. It's going to tell you to make a phone call. It's going to tell you to do the things that are necessary that leaves nothing out of your life. So that by the time you sit back, what you don't have, you don't miss. And what you do have, you love. It is that simple. It is that simple.